Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GTR Player Podcast. We're here with episode 6 with good friend Linford from Norwich Kill Team. Linford, welcome. How are you?
Not bad, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure, mate. I know we've been trying to line this one up for a while, so it's great to finally have you on the show. And what better representation, especially with all the great things I hear and see happening in Norwich, than to have you for our 6th episode, which is literally around, basic players going out and finding a community or what people need to do to start one. So super keen to hear your insights on how that all came together for yourself personally in Norwich and all the goodness that's been done to date, right?
Yeah, it's we're a new club, but we've grown fast, and if we can help other clubs grow just as well as us, it's all good.
Yeah, that's fantastic, mate. And something I like to do because, hearing everybody's personal experience with Kill Team, Linford, tell us, what was your first team and what was the experience, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, I just started hobbying again, and I'd bought the Into the Dark box set. I hadn't done any wargaming since my teens. So I took a bit of a hiatus, bought Into the Dark, and had the old the Breaches and Crew, which were pretty weak in second edition. My wife sort of wanted to get into some hobby as well, and she picked up some High Fleet's Compendium, the old Tyrannid team.
Wow.
So yeah, that was our first teams, Into the Dark. We never played any open board. That was like a novel experience because we only played close quarters for just like a year solid. So yeah, that was the original teams. Yeah, my first love is Breaches.
Wow, Space Chickens, Imperial Guard with axes, High Fleet, and sweaty Space Hulk boxes.
Yeah, man, it was great. Yeah. Sort of playing on our lounge floor at the time with next to the baby monitor, and learning the rules together, which is a real test of marriage strength, I think. Learning Kill Team.
Oh, mate, especially rules as written versus rules as intended. I think there would have been a lot of interesting conversations for sure.
Yeah. There was a lot of we are having fun being repeated when things aren't going to plan or things are not being understood.
That's amazing, mate. And tell us from there, and I'm very envious that you get to play with your wife, mate. I wish I could do that, but she thinks I plays with toys, right? So that's all well and good. I've found my people, but tell us, where did your journey go from there, mate?
Yeah, so we were playing games regularly, learning the Kill Team, and we went down to our friendly local game store, and said, when's your club night? And they said, man, we haven't done that for like a decade. We don't host club nights anymore. You got to find your own opponents. So I went out into the wilds on Reddit and other social media, and put out the call. This is what we're doing. This is our club. I didn't obviously advertise strongly that it was just me and my wife in this Norwich Kill Team club. But yeah, this is our club. This is what we're up to. And from there, little pockets of groups of Kill Team players in the local area started contacting us for games, meeting up at local game stores, and it grew from there. We had quite a few groups who were all playing myself and my wife regularly, and I sort of felt a bit selfish to be hoarding all of these opponents. So we brought on everyone under one banner, made our own little community, brought everyone together, and it's just grown from there.
That sounds phenomenal, mate. That is honestly grassroots community building, right? Just reaching out to the interwebs, putting the word out, just bringing people together. And that first store you started at, which store was that?
So that was a store called Games Table in Norwich. That was our sort of like our regular meet. We were lucky enough to they provided all the terrain for us. So that was like a really nice quick intro into the hobby, not needing so much terrain for everyone to be playing these board games. So turn up with your team kind of thing. The games table sort of we that closed down, and then we sort of were nomads for a very short while, and then have now made our new home at Athena Games, which is about a 30-second walk down the road from where we were, and we've been there ever since with a regular club night, and it's just exploded.
That's fantastic. And tell me, how many people do you get overnight? And is it just one night or multiple nights down at Athena?
Yeah, dude. So we've got between 40 to 50 active players. Our community sort of Discord has got over sort of 200, but I'd say like active regular players is about 40 to 50. And on our club night, it's a Tuesday, single night, but we also do ad hoc games throughout the week. I think we peaked at 28 players a few weeks ago for one of our regular gaming nights, but it's normally about 24 to 26 is our normal. We'll do about 24. And yeah, it's, thinking like we're hosting a mini tournament level of numbers every Tuesday night. It's harder not to find a game now. It's everyone wants to play new teams. Everyone wants to play new opponents. And it's absolutely rad.
That's fantastic, mate. That's such a good story. And tell me, what have you currently got on the table in terms of kill teams?
Yeah, I've gone back to my roots when I used to play as an early teen. I've gone back to Orcs. I'm on Wreckers at the moment, Wrecker Crew. So that's my jam. I went into third edition with Angels of Death. I got a nice like Soul Drinkers chapter squad of those. Just something really basic. I've been playing Hordes for a while, so I went sort of a bit basic with those. Played all those reps in, and now I've moved to Wrecker Crew, which are just, I think, the funnest faction in the game. They're just brilliant.
Yeah, literally, they're just such a swingy team. But if you get it right and you chain activate them properly, they're just a ton of fun. You almost feel like calling out a wire while you're playing them, right?
It's so, for some reason, for Wreckers, a bad dice roll doesn't feel as bad, and it's just because it's the orkiness of it. Pop out, the target with no cover. 6 dice, no hits, and then a really opportunistic shot later in the game. You'll get six 5s and 6s, probably with lethal 5 on close quarters, and you'll just explode a Ravener or something like that. It's just such a wild gaming experience. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, that's awesome. And tell me, from a competitive aspect or angle with regards to yourself, have you been to any tournaments of late? Have you been connecting, with other clubs, across the UK? How's that been for Norwich and yourself?
Yeah, so I think I was one of the first in the club to go to tournaments and to go to hit the kill team tournament scene. So I went to Ryan Slater's Turning Point Tactics tournament last year, or maybe even longer than that. And nice. I turned up, and again, it was only me in a Norwich Kill Team Club T-shirt. And Ryan was like, "Yeah, where are the rest of you guys?" And I'm like, "Oh, they're coming in a car." Like he doesn't know every person there anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
because it was just me, and I was embarrassed to be like a solo team guy. So ever since then I got the bug, and I think tournaments are just like just absolutely the best place to learn and meet new people. But yeah, the last tournament I went to was Deadwood's Manchester club's kill team tournament. They're a real cool community, real friendly, and that also attracted sort of the guys from Liverpool and other sort of surrounding areas. And yeah, that was great fun. Managed to place 5th with Wreckers. Got best painted, which is obviously a real highlight to any event if getting that award, because that is pinnacle stuff. And so I was really, really happy and really thankful for going there and winning that. It's I tend to try and get a tournament in every month or so, actually, going around the UK.
That's fantastic. And tell me, does the missus play competitively as well, or more casually?
Classic player of doesn't like competitive play, likes a real fun experience, but will pull out the most strategic, sweaty move you'll ever experience. And sort of be like, well, the rules do say I can do it. And you're like, where did that come from?
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
Rachel doesn't do the tournament scene, but is a major part of our own tournament scene for organising and TOing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And tell me, does she, roll her sleeves up and get stuck into it for some of your local tourneys because it's a bit more of a friendly environment?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty rad being able to play our Valentine's event partnered with my wife. Yeah, she gets stuck in with the best of them. And we've got a few wives and other women in the club as well. So it's a really nice atmosphere for everyone. We're trying to encourage more partners to try the game on demo days and things like that. It's yes, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, wonderful. And we in Norwich, is Athena the hub for Norwich Kill Team, or are there other locations around Norwich that play and support as well?
Yeah, so that's our home. It's Athena
The hub.
is the hub for us. It's I think we can host 60 players for a tournament in their main two halls. They've got an amazing
Wow.
store downstairs, and they also host a huge amount of other board games from all of the Warhammer variants, and then also card games galore kind of thing. So it's really nice to also meet other game platforms and see what they're up to, but also encourage them to try out what we're doing on a regular Tuesday.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds like an amazing spot. A massive shout out to Athena Games in Norwich.
Yeah,
Thanks for the
absolutely.
community
Yeah,
support. That's phenomenal. That's just sounds like a one-stop shop for community. I mean, purchasing kit, right, and then running events.
yeah. It's really perfect. I mean, we didn't have a gaming night for a long time, and we looked at private venue hire, and we didn't want it to be sort of like an old man's club where we were very insular, we were sort of off the track. No one sort of knew where we were, what we were doing. We can only post so much stuff on social media. And so having Athena, which was so central and so visible in the gaming community, was perfect. Also, Athena get involved just like us with public events. So we get in Games Con and the local Diceni event in Norwich, where all these game platforms all come together in a large, very, very central space in our city. We join up with Athena and showcase what we're all about to the wider public.
That's fantastic. That's so good to hear. And I think, being able to not only generate some community infrastructure with regards to, just flow and operational elements, but then being supported by a store like that, and then connecting across other communities just brings it all together really nicely. And it's the perfect segue as we get kicked off into today's episode. Trying to guide people who are looking for a community or people who want to build communities, what elements they need to consider. And that dedicated play space is really key, right? You mentioned the other shop that shut down, and you guys were basically nomads, gypsies looking for another spot. And then Athena popping up and just providing that space. I mean, you can't really run in-person games without a dedicated space, right?
Yeah, I mean, we quite a few of us have host games in our own homes. We can only do that so much, and also we were finding that it's really cool having one-to-one games with people dotted throughout the week at a certain location, but getting everyone together and seeing everyone playing Kill Team, 28 players all doing their own thing, having casual chats, catching up, seeing what other people are doing, latest hobby projects, new teams on the board, jeering and stuff when things go right or wrong. I think that's what built the community probably the strongest and the most recently, was getting everyone under one roof at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. And that regularity as well, right, is really important, because it not only helps shape what I like to call play-life balance, but it also provides a rhythm for people as well who do want to get regular games in, and having a night of the week they can carve out for Kill Team or any other tabletop gaming platform is really important, right?
Yeah. So it's we also have the benefit of Owen, one of our sort of veterans. He runs the league, which keeps people always finding new players and experiencing new things. And also Dan is we keep all of the club data. So any casual or competitive game, we have our own forms system where we can upload all of our game data, faction, opponent score, your score, tac ops, all of this sort of stuff. Every part of the game data is all captured, and then we do a breakdown of our own meta every month. And then also other communities has now started asking for that data because we've got such a large amount of it. We're generating 28, 26 or 28 casual Tuesday night games on top of 1-to-1 ad hoc games every week. So we sit on a huge amount of data, and some of the metrics are really interesting.
That sounds amazing. And how deep does that go? Does that go into what kind of tac ops were executed during what turning point and so forth?
Yes, we have it broken down by season and also data slates as well. So you can sort of track trends when certain things have been implemented. So things when Legionary took the nerf and started dropping off in terms of power, and certain new teams coming in, and also what some of their the teams that are countering those new teams are looking like quite early on. In terms of sort of gatekeeping, sort of power creep and stuff like that. So it's actually it's a really interesting little thing we started doing. And again, we couldn't do it all ourselves. There's too much for me and Rachel to do, and having folk that want to do it, have offered to do it and do it well is the way to go. So yeah, it's we're very thankful again for these people to be part of our community.
That's fantastic. That is really fantastic. And so just back on to how vital a location or a play space is. I know it's great that Athena's there, but I know in a lot of instances there's no game stores near some of the locations here in Australia and across the globe. And, we sometimes go to, we have pubs and RSL clubs that support us as well. I mean, on Wednesday nights down at Panania Diggers for us and my team, we play there every Wednesday night. They've got amazing bar tables. They don't have terrain, but we BYO our terrain. We're actually speaking to them about creating a sub club and actually having some locker space for some terrain, which is imminent, which is fantastic.
That's cool.
But having a space is really important, right? And everybody being able to get to that space and it being accessible as much as possible with as many amenities as possible is really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is important. I mean, you can only do so much on like a digital space where you're sharing games and experiences, battle reports, and sort of community banter on a digital space. But having that physical space is really important. And we also have like sort of other little places that we play, like say bars and whatnot. We further afield from us, but still in sort of Norfolk, Suffolk, we have our own little sort of sports bar that we sometimes go to, Chinny's. And that's a wild experience. Ali, Primaris Painter on Instagram, he absolutely fantastic painter and player, invited me to go to the sports bar. I turned up and it was like the World Cup night as well. And it was just
wow.
Heaving. And I'm like, oh man, are we gonna like get some back room or anything? And he's like, no, I've got a table right at the bar, like right in the main space. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be pretty wild, man. And all the locals, I was like, man, we are going to get absolutely collared here. It's not going to be a fun experience. They were really interested. What's that? What you doing? I love that. I used to play that when I was younger, kind of thing. And everyone accepts it. I think it's so cool. It's such a changed atmosphere now from sort of what it was like in the 90s. I think it's just brilliant. These little spaces do exist. You just got to try it out. Any local bar or place will happily have you for a few hours in a reserved table. And we'll be interested to see what's going on if you use them as a venue.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like people on Wednesday nights walk past to us and they go, "You're playing 3D chess? What are you playing, Dungeons and Dragons?" And we give them a little intro and they're just like, yeah, they're super interested. I don't think anybody, if this was maybe 10, 15 years ago in that kind of environment, you might have been laughed at, but I don't think that's the case.
It'd be carnage.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fantastic now. It's it's completely changed. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the tools you've got internally, and we talked about how important terrain is and how you can BYO unless there's a store or a club that can support you. But do you? I know we in my team we've started to put together teams for other people to use just from an accessibility standpoint. Are there any kind of shared game components you have at Norwich?
Yeah, so for any like sort of public event or anything like that, we have our like demo teams, and they are mostly teams that I have salvaged off eBay and repainted myself, and I don't mind them getting chipped, broken, or stolen or destroyed. And yeah, it's just it's an easy way to lend stuff to brand new players so they can dip their toe into the water and see if it's something that they'd enjoy. And also for these public events, it's condensing those teams' rules is also really important as well. So it just makes it a bit more accessible, just making it a bit more simplified. So yeah, we share all that sort of stuff. And then also terrain. I mean, every player has 2 or 3 sets of terrain. We ashamedly sit on 16 boxes of terrain in our house. Which has it's awful. I'm sitting around and looking at just boxes of terrain because it's all stored really nicely as well. And we'll bring along those to events, tournaments, and also club nights if people want a certain type of terrain or kill zone. Because we also do a lot of our own custom boards as well, our own open board stuff, which is kind of what we've been known for now.
Mm. No, it's really good. Yeah, I think it's so key to have not only teams people can borrow, because especially welcoming new players into the community. So, people might have heard about your club. People might have seen a couple of posts here and there, or to your point, you put the word out on Reddit and they turn up and they want to play because they've heard about Kill Team, right? But they haven't got any equipment. They've got no dice, no tokens. They haven't got a Kill Team. Yeah. To be able to have things there for them to readily pick up and to run them through an intro game, I think is super important, right? Because the warmer you welcome somebody into your community, the more likely is that they're going to stay and feel, accepted, seen, welcomed. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also like no one sits on just one team. Everyone's got a few teams sitting in storage. So everyone in the club will also offer up their spare teams as well. And we're happy to give intro games. It's kind of a baked in thing in our club that we will always offer intro games. Everyone has the opportunity to offer intro games to absolutely everyone. It doesn't just fall on the few or the veterans. Even as a fairly new player, you're encouraged to give these intro games to other new players and build the community themselves. We are a community foremost, and so yeah, it's something that I think everyone enjoys, and it should be again a part of a regular part of the hobby is showcasing the hobby to others.
No, definitely. And is there any kind of schedule you have to welcome new players into the community? Is there a particular night new players can turn up, or can they just turn up any night?
I think it's the best way is to get them down on our regular Tuesday club night. It's that's when they'll experience the community at its fullest. And then also when we do tournaments or mini events, having the folk come down for that as well to experience everyone in one place at one time, rolling dice and playing the game to its full. But yeah, I mean, coming down on the Tuesday night is the best way to do that. We also do, like I said earlier, the public events. So we'll have a half-sized game board with half-sized teams. The teams will be no ops, no faction rules, and if there are unique abilities, just having a look at them to make sure they're not too complex, and just dialing it into basically, here's a half-sized board, half-sized team, roll some dice, move, shoot, fight, do an action, and it's the best way to introduce new players to the system, because otherwise it can be really heady and you can get bogged down in the detail. What you want to do is roll some sixes, and kill some
Yeah.
opponents, and that's what you want to do as a new player, you know.
Yeah, their brain will be soup by the end of that intro game, but you don't necessarily want it nuked, right?
Yeah, and and again, like the utilizing local events for that, you know, like the local games con and Diceni event for us, and we are in the middle of a large auditorium with members of the public all seeing other game platforms. We've got our banners up, teams on the board. Here's a sprue of plastic. Here's some paints. This is a completed team, and this is a little board that you can play on. And it's such a quick snippet. I've got to pitch this whole thing in 15 minutes. Without getting bogged down in like the Horus Heresy and all of the lore and stuff. They don't want to know that. They want to pick up a model and start shooting and fighting. So yeah, getting a quick fix system in place to hook new players is the key.
And is there a way you kind of have an element of mentorship going along with those new players as they progress maybe through their first 5 games?
Yeah, so I mean, our Discord has grown huge. So any sort of club or community chat room system is going to be really key to that. Having dedicated areas for new player questions, new players meeting other new players, so they're not just so segregated, or that they're not learning the system by themselves and feeling like they're asking repetitive questions. These are the spaces that are really important. It's I think that's really key, is just to have these open discussion areas where they can ask the most basic questions, which we all take for granted as now muscle memory. But do you know what? We all started playing the game at some point, and it was all really difficult to understand obscuring and line of sight and visibility, which we all sort of take for granted. But having those questions being asked in a safe and sort of comfortable space where people aren't going to just ridicule or find the questions repetitive or boring is really key. It's I think that's important.
Yeah, a safe space to basically ask any question you like and not be, shunned, ridiculed, or embarrassed to do it, I think is really important, because to your point, I mean, playing your first game on half a board, like you said, you will come out of that game with so many questions, right? You'll come out of that game completely hooked, wondering what you did wrong, what you could have done better. You might have been told 3 times with regards to a particular rule, but it didn't sink in, because some people might be, literal learners rather than visual ones. So having a space to ask those questions is key. And tell me something, because I know I've done this. Like I've done so many intro games across Sydney, it isn't funny. And I can really identify the difference between somebody who wants to play the game casually versus somebody who wants to play the game competitively off the bat. Is there a way Norwich can identify those players and basically accelerate some individuals through to competitive play? Because I know we do, right? And I'm just curious as to what Norwich's approach is to that.
I mean, we have such a massive spectrum for different types of players anyway. So those individuals will naturally marry up to their equivalents or who are already established in the club. Our competitive scene, I mean, we have players who are completely new, are able to read a new set of rules and completely digest, understand, and maximize every part of their unique abilities, faction rules, and play them to the best level straight away. And those guys will often be part of the regular tournament scene. But I think it's not, you shouldn't overlook any one part of the community. We have guys that are more interested in the narrative side of things, and definitely way more casual players than competitive. But again, it's making sure that the right individuals are speaking to the right new players is definitely important for that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you create space as well for those types of conversations and communications on your Discord too?
Yeah, I mean, so I think with setting up any new community, you have to have, you want your club to be run how you would like to play the game yourself. And you can't be a jack of all trades, but you can try and be good at the majority of things. So when I sort of what I'm trying to sort of say there is, if your club is completely geared up for, we are a team of hard-hitting, cheese-chasing sweaters who are going to hit every tournament hard, and we are going to place. Do you know what? That is absolutely rad, and you have to cater for that. Just be aware that your casual players are going to feel a bit exiled from that. And likewise, if you're going to be doing a very casual, narrative-themed community, your competitive players are going to be pretty stressed and strained to get what they want out of it for the regular games that they'll be getting week on week. So yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to make sure that your club is how you want to sort of how you want to play yourself. And our Discord has those sort of rules baked into it. We are encouraging for every question. Nothing is wrong, and repetitive questions are welcomed. Most regular players are going to make the most basic mistakes very still, and I think that's you have to just accept that and welcome that.
Oh, for sure. And tell me, what's Norwich's take on, attitude and being a good sport?
Yeah, so I mean, our club was really built on probably the foundations of how we originally started playing as a group, which was we were very much focused on the hobby, and our demographic is the sort of 30 to 50-year-olds who have now carved out a bit of time and are now wanting to play this on their one night off a week. And you don't want to spend that time in an environment that is going to be aggressive, rude. And we had some pretty sort of open conversations right at the beginning of how we want our community to look and feel. If someone's asking a question on one of our chat rooms, responses like, well, obviously, or clearly not, that's kind of, I guess, those sort of like micro comments that brings the entire atmosphere to a certain direction. And that's kind of not what we want. We want everything to be super fun times, happy days. Everything's great. Everything's, novel. And we encourage every level of every type of thing. So if you're doing competitive play and you're going to a tournament, everyone's already on the day of a tournament wishing luck. What's the score? Checking on BCP. Looked like a tough game kind of thing. Head up, kind of, what happened here? Everyone's always asking those things. A brand new painter who has just entered the hobby and is learning how to thin paint for the first time. People are also saying, that's a great model. I tried this. Have you tried that? I haven't thought of this. What's your take on that? And again, it's just being that really encouraging environment. We all have one night off a week for this in our community for this hobby, and you don't want to spend it in a negative environment. I haven't got time for it. It's you want to be having fun and enjoying it.
Yeah, I think I've seen so many shoot from the hip snide responses on other Discords where it really does kill the vibe, because what will happen is it'll make the person who's asking the question feel incompetent, and then kind of allowing that kind of behavior to continue just puts a bit of a dampener on it for everyone, right? So I think it's great that you guys had a set of clear expectations from the get-go and, make it all about growth and good times. It's fantastic.
It's tricky. I mean, I think the one thing I will quickly just say is it's a fine line between, we're all adults and you don't want to be censoring any conversation. That is not my job. I don't have any interest in doing that. But it's encouraging the positive stuff, I think. And just having, little check-ins with people who have either gone off the rail in the wrong direction, or that there's a slight quip, and just asking, is everything okay? What's going on? What's up? And there's always a reason. No one is ever really wanting to say a mean comment to someone. It's not how people are. And it's I don't think it happens very often for that like absolute reason. So again, it's part of the community thing. Check in on people. If someone sounds like they're having a rough time or a bit short, you kind of want to be checking in on them and saying, what's going on, man? Is everything okay? How can I help? What's the situation? Because that's also part of the community as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I couldn't agree with you more. And Vivek from Canada, hey, Vivek, actually called out one specific instance because that stuff doesn't really happen in Canada, right? Because everybody's happy and friendly. But there
Of
was a
course.
specific instant he mentioned that somebody was just getting a little bit probably too hyper focused and hyper fixated with regards to a particular competition and how they were handling themselves. And all it took was a check in. He turned
Hmm.
around and asked, "Hey, is everything okay?" And the person in question didn't realize how they were behaving, right? Because they were like almost in a zone and they were like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry," right? So, to your point, I think, we've got to give people a lot of grace. You might not know what somebody's going through or what's going on in their head at a particular time. So, that check in can be vital.
Yeah, I mean, it's the old forum decorum thing, when forums were first a thing on the internet back in the day. We all remember
Mm.
them, and it was a absolute hotspot for just aggressive messaging and stuff like that. And you do message and it sounds abrupt sometimes, and things that get taken out of context. It happens all the time, but just making sure that that doesn't just lie like that, and you're just still just um, making sure that how you wanted to come across was the correct way you wanted to come across is the key, because once something becomes status quo and that quippy aggressive micro chats start popping up here and there, it becomes the norm, and it just goes from there. And you'll end up with a very aggressive community, which again, there is a place for that. There are communities that are ultra aggressive, and I do dip my toe into other communities and go, man, this is a wild, like sort of Wild West sort of situation. No one can say anything without getting sort of shot by 20 angles. And if that's the community you want, that's cool. That's absolutely fine. It's not our community, but there are spaces for that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And tell me, do you have an element, because I know some other communities have this as well, but almost like what they would call an anti-meta culture, where by all means play the latest and greatest teams that, are a bit overpowered, but not playing them to absolutely stomp your opponent if it's just a casual setting? Because there's been a lot of instances, where people have gone for intro games, casual games into a particular environment and then just be absolutely obliterated, right?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because the new teams are what get the new players and current players excited. And
Mm.
as we've seen this last season, the new teams are strong. They are ultra elite style. Horde is kind of a bit dead at the moment in terms of sort of like upcoming teams and local metas. And so it's hard not to play the new team and not go sort of full cheese by accident. I think it's
Mm.
also just again how the club is or the community is run. If you, again you will have some very sort of cheese chasing communities, which is absolutely fine, especially for tournament prep. But
Mm.
I think opponents or players in general want to have two things. They want to have a good game, and they want their opponent to have a good game. The last thing anyone wants is their opponent to go, "God, that was awful. I didn't enjoy a
Yeah.
single part of that, and I don't want to come back to this hobby at all." It's all investment. That said, I think we've all accidentally done an intro game and completely stomped someone, and and you go, God, I just dipped my toe into, or my brain went into the realm of competitive play for a second there, and I didn't know that's kind of awful. But it also becomes kind of like a funny sort of club meme in itself. There's always like the obligatory, God, you've got a stomping from this, but it's going to get better and it's going to be fun. And it's finding that balancing act.
Yeah.
It's
No.
yeah, it's always good. And then also you get the polar opposite of that, where a new player, you're setting things up, you're setting up plays. I'm clearly moving this person here just so you can experience an obscuring shot or a shot with cover or without cover. And then you're looking at the scoreboard on turn 3 and you go, man, I'm going to really lose this. I'm like, I need
Yeah.
to sort of bring this back a bit. It can't be like this for me. So yeah, it is hard with these new teams because they are just so good. The new Necrons and the Death Watch, the new upcoming teams, that they are strong nowadays.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned something earlier that I just want to just kind of go back to for a second. You mentioned the hobby and kind of like non-game events? Do Norwich run anything like that?
Yeah, so we need to sort of get back on it actually, but we do like a we'll do like painting competitions. Obviously, the work in progress Wednesdays is huge for every community, but like these quirky mini painting competitions within the local club of a 1 hour speed painting competition or a 3 color only painting competition is a really good way of people just getting in, showing off what they can do, and it's just anonymous photo, vote only kind of thing. There's no prize, but it just keeps people busy and keeps people wanting to show off their latest project. So yeah, it's I think that's I think that's a massive part of it as well. It's is also helping others. The amount of very artsy folk that we have in the community who are pros at oil washers and airbrush stuff is becoming more and more. Everyone is so good at painting now. It's so annoying. Back in the day, you'd have like one good painter in the club. Now everyone is amazing at painting. Everyone's doing a new thing, doing a new style. I also love seeing all the different styles in the club. From very, very painterly, unblended stippling, which is kind of how I paint actually, mainly because I can't blend. But also people who are just like expert at wet blending, wet palette stuff, and airbrush. Spectacular airbrush work with the detail that I would never be able to do. And we, break down little tutorials and reference things that we've seen online, artists that inspire us, especially the ultra dark, grim dark stuff where, they're gluing animal hair and bits of twig onto models and stuff like that. One guy in our club, Steph, he's known for his little cube stuff, an entire chaos sort of demon army made out of styrofoam cubes and things like that. It's really surreal stuff, and I love seeing everyone's different style of hobby. It's just so cool, and it's really inspiring as well. I can't do half the stuff that others are doing, but I can live it through them, if you know what I mean, through what they're posting on our club community.
That sounds amazing. I mean, that styrofoam cube thing you just mentioned, like I need to see that. I know
it's hell for knowing what proxy is meant to be what. But Steph's a madman, and it inspires others to try new things as well. He's a kit bash extraordinaire, really.
And tell me, aside from the Discord, how do Norwich project themselves to the community?
Yeah, so we sort of mentioned earlier, Reddit was our starting point, just because it was it's actually a really good platform for sharing stuff and reaching your local community, I found. Instagram is fantastic for the wider national or international audience, but Reddit has got a weird place in that it's really good for your immediate community, sort of the city or the province or the county that you're living in. Just because if you're associated to certain sorts of tags or algorithms, that's where you'll be sort of projecting your stuff. And it's a really good place to like sort of pick up new local players, see what's on the local sort of wargaming scene and things like that. But Instagram's been really amazing for the wider community stuff. My wife runs the majority of all of our social media and event planning. And has way more patience and savvy for social media than I do. But that stuff is really, really important, showcasing what you're doing regularly, but also focusing on different players in the community. A community page shouldn't be like a vanity project where you're posting your own stuff. We do sort of community highlights where we'll focus on someone in the community, a new or old player, and just what they're up to, what inspired them, what they're playing, and what they've got going on. And it's sort of focusing on these little things. Events are always a big one. If someone goes to an event, you get just as much highlight as someone else going to an event, and that also links us up really nicely with the local, the sort of clubs in our own country as well. They can see what we're up to, we can see what they're up to, and it just brings the whole network together.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so your missus is doing a lot of work for the club, right?
Yeah. She's the whiz, really. It's we started this whole thing together. I mean, I I was definitely more. I'm more about sort of the wider hobby stuff. What certain, if there's a data slate and a rule change, I'm like, oh, can't you believe that Sanctifiers have got this rule slate change, and how powerful is this model? And she sort of gives you a sort of a blank stare and just says, yeah, okay. She only cares about her team and the community stuff, whereas I sort of get bogged down in regular updates and who's doing what and whatnot. So we have our place within the community. She's the big picture person. She runs the big, the scene as a whole.
That's fantastic, and there's definitely like both elements are really, really important to different parts of the community, right? One's operationally, one's getting stuck into the weeds with what you need to be thinking about when you're going into your next tournament and so forth, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. And I'm very, very lucky to have someone like that in the club, and as my partner. But I think that's another thing about sort of setting up a community is delegation. And I suppose, like everyone, I started the community by wanting to do everything myself because mainly you have the most control by doing it yourself. That's very noble and cool, but you're gonna get swamped ultra fast. You can't run leagues, painting competitions, hobby areas, all of our branches of our community chat room, which is like the 40k stuff, the Crusade, Necromunda, Warcry. You can't be looking at everything, policing everything. You can't be involved in organizing everything. So delegating things to people who actually want it is very important. Owen does an absolutely rad job of our league and is hobby pro. And same like Sam and Jack doing our 40k Crusade stuff as well. You should be relying on these individuals to prop up the club and drive it forward just as much as anyone else, and yourself especially, because it'll just be overwhelming. And you don't want it to be a job. As soon as it feels like a job, it's going to become very laborious, and you're not going to enjoy it yourself. It has to be hobby first, fun first. So yeah, delegating stuff is ultra important.
Yeah, no, there are so many talented people within the community, right? I'm blessed to have a bunch of mods who are definitely passionate about the game, but also super focused on supporting the community, which is really exciting. But to hear you've got that all set up is phenomenal. And you touched on it earlier with regards to connecting with other clubs in the area. What's Norwich's focus on that, and how do you guys go about, having inter-club engagements, connects, etc.?
Yeah, so we've got Knott's Kill Team, who are probably one of the oldest kill team clubs in the country. For obvious reasons, we connect with those guys a lot, and we support each other's tournament scene and casual scene as much as we can. People visiting the local area, we'll always make sure that we can welcome them into our club night or even like one-to-one games, just so that they can get a game into with our local scene and see what we're all about. Showcase some of our unique open boards, our beach assault. We've got like a beach board, and some of our sort of our weirder terrain setups, just so they can have something novel and something that they can remember and talk about. And like sort of Sean from Jason from Once Upon a Kilton came and visited Norwich and grabbed a game with some of our guys and saw our hobby night in full swing. Collaborating with other clubs, we sometimes do mini events with other clubs that are closer to us. It's all one scene, and we all share the same people. And something that from a TO tournament point of view is not poaching from the same pool of people at the same time. If you're doing events, space them out. We all try to make sure we've got as many games or events going throughout the year as possible, but not running things on the same time of year or the same sort of themes. Very, very important. You want to have maximum participants for every event. There's no point events clashing unnecessarily. But that's so good now. There's so many chat rooms and systems now in place that TOs can make sure that we are supporting each other instead of conflicting with each other. It's great. It's what a community. I haven't experienced that in many other hobbies where so many individuals from around the country are all trying to better the same purpose together. and not conflict with each other. It's super positive.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because at the same time, you might have a portion of your community that is competitive and wants to go to multiple events. So to be able to space them out means you're working collaboratively together to give your players in your own club an opportunity to go to as many events as they want, but also as well, to your point, a rising tide lifts many ships, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And we've got to the point now where there's multiple carpools of folk all traveling to the same event, and it's cool, it's inspiring as well, seeing these other scenes. I went to an event by Lincoln, another kill team community who are absolutely fantastic in Knots, and our scene at the time was very much terrain was always grimdark, realistic, and I went to those guys who are slightly up north, and they're a bit further afield. We travelled to them for the first time, and they've got bright pink and turquoise painted terrain, and really interesting painting palettes for different sorts of board setups. And you go, I've never seen anything like this, and it's inspiring because you're experiencing the hobby meta of another community as well, which is massively different, and it's really interesting to see, actually.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Honestly, it's a really phenomenal thing geographically that most of Europe has versus places like Australia is the communities are so close where ours are so far spread out. But still, the passion's there, the fire's there, so we kind of make it happen, which is really good. Linford, tell me, mate, what will be personally your next team?
Ooh, so I stick to teams for quite a while. I run them until they are completely dry.
Yeah.
But I'm probably going to chop up my poor old and very, very battle worn Angels of Death and convert them into Deathwatch. I've got all the parts which I've been hoarding for a while since Deathwatch was first announced, and I'll be chopping some hands and bolters and chainswords off of my Angels of Death, and adding some new cool Deathwatch equipment onto those guys. So that's going to be my next project. But at the moment, I'm just on a terrain binge. I paint a lot of terrain whilst I'm offshore, whilst I'm working
nice.
On the ship. So at the moment, I've just come off from painting 2 Gallo Darks, Tomb World, and a Volcus, and another open board of terrain. So I'm sort of terrain burnt out. So it's nice to sort of focus on models again, actual gaming models.
Oh, mate, trust me, I'm right there with you on the terrain burnout, right? But I've literally assembled Raveners recently in Canoptech Circle, and I think I'll be taking either Canoptech Circle or Wrecker Crew into our next local tournament here in November, which is going to be exciting. But
nice, yeah. The Canoptech Circle are a really interesting team. It's I just wish my brain worked so I could remember all of the synergy stuff. I'm such a blunt instrument player, I need just to shoot, fight, blow up stuff, move, and I do that averagely. These synergy teams. I love it watching players who can actually play them properly, because I absolutely can't. But yeah, they're so cool. They're really cool.
Yeah, look, I love Necrons. I used to play them in 40k, and I haven't touched my Hyrotech Circle yet. But when Canoptech came out, I'm like, ooh, I think I need to, right? I think I need to.
Yeah, they are very spicy. Yeah, very, very cool.
And tell me, we've mentioned a lot of people from Norwich, but is there anybody in particular you would like to shout out? Because we are coming to the top of the hour, so I just want to make sure anybody in your community that's gone the distance, that's been there from the start, that's really rolled their sleeves up, that's put their heart on the line, gets the shout out they deserve.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the players who I started with, playing the Reddit days with, when I used to sort of make it up randomly, and you don't know who was going to turn up on that night because you've only been talking to someone on Reddit. Those guys are sort of the backbone of the community. There's so many of them now that would be here forever naming them all. But yeah, I think I'd shout out all of the new players actually instead of all the veterans as well. As
Wonderful.
Those are the guys that are bringing the hobby forward more and more, especially some of the younger players. They've got definitely more energy and different energy than some of the older players like us. And yeah, they're the ones that are just as important. I absolutely love it. It's such a cool community. And yeah, I'm excited to see how we're going to grow from here, because we've grown so fast so soon, and it's just rad.
Yeah, what would you say is next for Norwich?
It's we are branching out into more sort of like narrative stuff. We've really set our scene on the tournament circuits for twice a year. We do a really different, interesting type of event with different types of open board, which is a real leveler. We've all played Gallo Dark and Volcus a lot, but we bring our own maps. So when you've got these international players coming to your event and they look at a board going, "What is this? I don't know where anything is in terms of threat range." I really love those type of events where you bamboozle the players in a good way and really challenge them. So for us, working on that and delivering more of that is going to be absolutely epic. And then more public events, I think, getting the newer players involved in the club.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Things like community days work really well, right? Not only from an exposure standpoint, but to also welcome new players who might not have even known you're around the corner in, right?
Yeah, you still get it. You think you're well known, and then there'll be a huge group of local players who just haven't, for whatever reason, been exposed to what we're up to. So there's always new players to join, and as people drop out and have things going on throughout the year, because there's peaks and troughs of people's time availability, you've got others joining just at the same rate. So yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
I guarantee you've hit critical mass, but I don't think you've hit peak saturation yet, right?
I know. Yeah, we try to run the club like a business, but not without sort of the aggressiveness of a business. You have to take it seriously when you're running a club. It has to be good branding. You have to have good comms. You have to be always present. But you get to a stage where it becomes self-policing and sort of self-aware, where you don't need to be so visible all the time for things to be running smoothly. So that's the point where we're at now, where things are completely self-regulating, and it's a really nice place to be. You can sort of step back and just see everyone else enjoying it, and sort of take a deep breath and plan for the next thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. Linford, thank you so much for making yourself available for this episode. I'm sure for all our listeners who are tuning in have found nothing but golden gems and nuggets based on all the great work Norwich has done. Massive shout out to all of the team back at Norwich. And honestly, Linford, I think it was amazing that you kicked this off, because seeing what it's grown into, I'm sure, is really heartwarming for you, especially when so many people come together, connect, and find joy in just being in each other's company and creating something good. But mate, again, thank you for being on the show. I know the listeners have really absorbed a lot of what you've shared, and I look forward to catching up with you soon, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions about sort of community stuff or anything involved around sort of club building, send us a message on any of our platforms. We're easy to find on anything now. So yeah, send us a message. We get messages all the time. So I'm always happy to help others grow. That's what's important.
Fantastic. And Linford is in the GTR Discord, guys. So feel free to ping him directly.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Thank you, mate.